miscellaneous provisions of the EPF Act, that is the Employee Provident Fund, and miscellaneous provisions of this Act will be discussed now. So we know this Act, and there is a combination of Employee Provident Fund Act, then Employee Pension Scheme, and Employee Deposit Linked Insurance Scheme. So all these are to be totally called as EPF Act and miscellaneous provisions. So we have seen already the two videos on both this act. Now we will see some of the other provisions which is pertaining to this particular act. The first one is Employees Provident Fund Appellant Tribunal. So if this tribunal, as we know, this is under section 7D, this tribunal is being to be constituted by one or more appellant tribunal, and this is called as an Employee Fund Appellant Tribunal, which is coming into existence by the official notification. So when the central government will state it in an official notification, so from that this particular Employees Provident Fund Appellate Tribunal is coming into existence. So what is the role is they try to exercise the powers, or they also discharge the functions relating to this act. So every tribunal, they have the jurisdiction based on this establishments, the situation, that is where the particular establishment is there. So that will be the jurisdiction, and the area also will be notified. So in this tribunal, they have only one person, and he is appointed by the central government. Regarding the qualification of this particular presiding officer, that is he should be a qualified person, that is he should be a judge of a high court. So the appellate tribunal is constituting one person, and that particular person is to be a qualified judge of a high court. This is the order. And the term of the office. So as far as the term of the office is concerned, he will be up to 5 years. So from the date of his appointment or is entering into the presiding officer, so he is called as a presiding officer of the tribunal, or till the age of 62 years. So whichever is yearly, that will be the term of appointment. And regarding the appeals, so what are the appeals which will be made to this tribunal is, for example, if any application is being received for review, so that is what is given in the slide, you can look at it. Appeal against any order which has been passed in this act can be made to the tribunal. So if an order is passed by the tribunal and it is a final and that cannot be tenable, so we have to find out. So what can be done is, if any person is not satisfied or is aggrieved by the notification, so when the central government, as we know, is passing any order or so some changes or some appeals, then they can go for. So based on this, they can apply for this tribunal. So that can be like any income has been escaped, or like what are the money to be due, like determining there is some aggrieved nature, or regarding the provisions. So in that case, they can go for this tribunal, and the orders of this tribunal can be given by the parties of the appeal, and there is an opportunity to be heard. So they can be heard. So both the parties will be given an opportunity of being heard. So that is what has been highlighted over here. So you can just see the laser point where I am using. So both the parties will be given the opportunity of being here. So they have to either confirm, or they have to modify or set right the order. Or sometimes they can even ask the authority who passes original order. So they can even make some fresh decision over here. So this is the case where, and if there is an opportunity, both the parties will be heard about the orders, and they have the opportunity to go for. In case if they want, they can confirm it, or even they can go for modifying or even appeal. So what has been done is, they even go for referring some of the old cases. So when they go for referring such a case back, so when there is already directions for this, that can be referred for the tribunal. Otherwise, they even can go for a fresh decision. So this is with respect to fresh decision can be also done. If suppose there is a mistake, and that mistake has to be done, so if the tribunal may at any time, so So from within 5 years from the order, if they fail of thing, they can go for rectifying any mistake which is shown in the apparently shown in the, that is a mistake is apparently shown in the records. So however, this is the possibility they can go for rectifying its own order. So this is with respect to rectifying the mistakes of the thing. This is the order of the tribunal. And regarding the opportunity, as I told you, they can go for hearing. So both employees and employer, they will be the asked to appear for the hearing, and they can go for enhancing the amount due from. Even there is a case, suppose there is an increase in the liability, and in that case the employer will not be satisfied, so he can even go for hearing and explain in this consequences. Then regarding this, they have to send a order. So order of the copy, that is a copy is sent, and whenever, as we know, the final order passed by the tribunal is final and that is not at all questionable. That is what we have been referred here. So that is a finality of order. So when there is any amount has been done, so what is the order? Based on the order, they have to deposit 75% of the amount what is demanded if the appeal is made by the employer. So if it is weighed by the tribunal, then it is okay. Otherwise, it should be deposited, and the amount is 75% of the amount due from him as determined by the officer. So if there is a reason, then that reason can also be recorded in the form of writing. Suppose they are reducing the amount, even that reduced amount can be shown here, or if they are waiving this amount, even that can be deposited. All these details are to be done. And regarding this transfer of certain application to tribunal, we know that all the applications, all the applications related to it are pending with central government. Before it's repelled, then they can go for transferring this particular appeals which are pending to the particular tribunal, and they can even go for appealing that. And regarding the interest, suppose the interest is to be paid. So based on the tribunal decision, if interest to be paid, because if the money is not paid within the due date, then the employer should pay interest, and the interest is fixed at 12%. So the interest is fixed as 12%. This is per annum. Sometimes even they can fix very high amount based on the date of amount when it is due until the date of its actual payment. So mostly this higher rate of interest means that will be specified in the employees provident fund scheme. So based on that only they can fix the higher rate. But the rate cannot be higher than the rate which is fixed by the banks, that is scheduled banks lending rate. So the rate what has been specified as a interest payable cannot be at any consequences higher than the rate which has been fixed by the scheduled bank as a lending rate. That is very important to note. Regarding the recovery of money, is it possible? Yes, it is possible. So any amount is can be recovered if it is pending by from any employee, from the employees provident fund scheme or employees deposit link insurance scheme, and if there is any arrear, even that can be recovered. So how that can be recovered is based on the contributions what has been made to EPF or the EDLI scheme, or suppose there is any damages has been incurred, even the damages can be recovered. Sometimes there is an accumulation, then that accumulation can also be transferred, or sometimes if any charge is payable by the employer, that is some charge is payable and is pending, even that can be recovered. Same way there is an exemption also. So in case if they have paid higher, they can even go for recovery also. Now as far as the recovery is concerned, how the recovery can be made? So for recovery what they do is they are issuing a certificate to the recovery officer. So they will stipulate the amount, how much is the arrear. So with the signature of this recovery officer, a certificate is being issued. So when the recovery officer is receiving such certificate, he can produce it in order to recover the amount what is specified there from the particular establishment, and even he can go for, suppose the establishment says they don't have money, or they are not having money, sufficient money, means in such case there is a provision, even they can go for attachment of the assets. So even they can go for attaching movable or immovable assets, or even they can sell the assets, that is the assets of the establishment. That is sometimes they can sell and give the sale proceeds, or even they can go for attaching that. If still he is not paying, means then employer can be arrested and he can be detained in the prison. So the role is we appoint the receiver for the management of this movable or immovable property or establishment. So as the case may be. So this is important. They have to go for recovery or the modes of recovery. Now there is a certificate which is to be forwarded within the jurisdictions, and this is to be done with the particular place where the establishment is situated, and the certificate is valid certificate, and in case the particular thing is there, that is there is no payment is made, then this is a valid certificate. So recovery officer will try to get the correctness of the amount to the particular person who has to be paid. So this is with respect to the recovery procedure, and this is the role played by the tribunal. Suppose they go for recovery, there are some other modes for recovery also. So in this case what is being done is the Central Provident Fund Commissioner or some other officer who is being authorized by the central government, he can also recover the amount through some other mode also. So this is also possible, and they are making an application to the court for releasing the amount. So the CPF, that is Central Provident Commissioner, or the officer who is authorized by the central government, he can apply to the court. So where the money is pending, so in that particular case where money is in the custody of the court, he can go for the court, and even they can, this commissioner will ask to release the entire amount of such amount which is due, or the sufficient amount which is due. So this is how the recovery can be done, and the recovery of money is very important, and this is much important in order to the machinery. Now we will talk about the penalties. What are the different penalties? So in order to go for penalties, we have to know, say, what is this penalty is all about. It is under section 14. So if any person is knowingly or making some cause to make that he is making some false representation or false statement. Sometimes even in order to avoid the payment, he can make himself do something. So that is he is trying to do in order to make the payment under this employee provident fund scheme or pension scheme or the employee deposit scheme. He may do something like he is doing some false statement or false representations to avoid such payment, or he should be punishable. So the punishment is imprisonment which is extending to 1 year, or a fine of 5,000 rupees. Suppose if he is not doing that, then what happens is, if is that is a payment of he is not doing that, or if he is not paying the payment of administrative charges, and then in that case the punishment can be extended to 3 years. But we have to note that the punishment should not be less than 1 year, and a fine of 10,000 in case he is making a default in the payment of contribution. So employee's contribution, which should be deducted by the employer from the employee's wages. So in that is the case, or he will be punished for 6 months and a fine of 5,000 in all the other cases. So it is a role of employer to deduct the particular amount from the employee's wages. And this is very important, and if suppose still they are not doing it, then they can go for another extension of 1 year. This is how they have to go for thing. And in case of they are going, that is already it has been stated, and they don't abide by the law, or when they are contravening the particular act, then they will be punishable up to 1 year or to a fine of 4,000 rupees. This is for default. Then there is a chance for enhancing the punishment. So if still already they have convicted and the second time they are doing it or repetitively they are doing it, means a particular employer will be punished and he can have been imprisonment for 5 years and the fine of to the tune of 25,000. So if it's a first case, then we will go for 1 year and 5,000. If he is repetitively contravening the sections of the thing, then they have to go for a severe punishment of 5 years imprisonment up to the tune of 25,000 as a fine rupees. Like this is with respect to these. So as we know, so if the thing is, if there is a penalty by employee, then if it is less than 2 months, the percentage is 17%. If it is 2 months and above, then they have to pay up to 4 months at 22%. So based on the number of months, they calculated the. Then regarding the offences made by company, section 14A. Suppose the establishment where the employees are working and it is covered under the employees provident fund scheme, employee pension scheme and employee deposit linked insurance scheme. If the employer is a company, then we have to make a note of it, but that is called as an offences by company, section 14 subsection A, and they are doing the business of a company, and they, if the particular company is deemed to be guilty of the particular offense and they are liable, so they are liable and they are liable for punishment also. But if the person who is concerned an authority, he is proving that the offense is committed without his knowledge, that is, he is not knowing that, and without his knowledge, if the offense has been committed and he has proved that he has taken all due diligence, that is, to prevent the commission of such offense, in that case he will not liable. So in case of company, it is to be noted that the officer in default is not knowingly doing it or he is not aware of it, and he has taken all the precautionary steps, and in order that he has proved it and before this commission, then he will not be liable. Suppose this is very important. Suppose if his offense is proved and the offense has been committed with his consent and he is attributable, or if he is negligent, that is, as a director or a manager of a company, he would have been vigilant, but he is negligent. In such case, the company secretary or director or a manager or officer, whoever is found to be guilty, then they are committed the offense, means they are to be punished and there is a proceeding which will be against them. Regarding the cognizance of offences, section 14 subsection AB and section 14 subsection AC. So here is with respect to the that is the cognizance of offences will be under the Code of Criminal Procedure. So we know the Code of Criminal Procedure and the year 1973. If any offence is being related to default in payment of contribution by an employer, see, employer is not contributing, employer has to contribute 8.33%. If he is not contributing, then it is an offence and employer is punishable. So this is a cognizable punishment, but the court will not take this cognizance as an offence punishable under the act, because the employee provident fund scheme or the pension scheme or the EDL, that is employees deposit linked insurance scheme, because except there is a writing, that is a report on the writing of facts that this offence has been made. In such case, they will be appointing an inspector under section 13. So we will see in next slides who is an inspector and how is he being appointed. So they will be making a report to the inspector that they have to obtain a sanction from the Central Provident Fund Commissioner or the authorized by the central government by the official gazette. So here it is very important to note, no court is inferior to the presidency magistrate or the magistrate of the first class who will be trying to set the offence under this particular act. So there is a power to recovery damages in case of cognizance of offences. So how it is being done is the payment, whatever the payment has to be made, contribution, that can be, or even they have to transfer. So for that they can claim liable for by the damages if he is default. So the officer is in default, in such case they can claim the charges, the amount what is to be contributed, the accumulated amounts also can be given. So but here we have to note that the employer is not guilt, so he has the opportunity to be heard. So employer is not guilt, then there is an opportunity to be heard, and the power of the court can make orders. So this is with respect to the cognizance of offences under section 4A. Then this is what I told you. They can go for the inquiring about the correctness. So this is the role of the inspector. As I told you, who is an inspector, how is he being appointed? This inspector is a person who will be looking into this particular offences. So under section 13 he is appointed by the appropriate government and also by the official gazette, and this inspector will be called as an inspector under the employees provident fund scheme or the pension scheme or the employees deposit insurance scheme. So the jurisdiction is also defined. So now let us look at the powers. So as far as the powers is concerned, inquiring about the correctness, that is any information has been furnished, they can check whether the information furnished is correct or wrong. Same way they can even ascertain whether all the provisions of the act are being complied with respect to the establishment, with respect to insurance scheme or the fund scheme. And regarding these provisions of the scheme, if they are not applied, then we have to determine whether the conditions what are been exempted. Suppose it is an exempted industry establishment, means they have to check whether really the particular industries or establishments are exempted. Then they have the power to recover. So there is a power to recover the amount from the contractor or the employee, whatever has to be recovered, and they have to have some examination, that is they need to examine the establishment or the premises, or suppose even they go for verifying the books, that is verifying the books or registers or some other documents where they have the details about the payment of wages. So employment details like who are all the persons employed, number of persons employed, the amount of wages paid, all these details. They can even go for examination of the contractor where any amount is recoverable, or sometimes if they are directly involved, then we have a employer. Suppose they do it through agency, then we have an agent, or even we have a contractor. So we can even suppose these people are found guilt, even we can go for examining, and if there is some issues, then we can make copies of the books or any registers or other documents also. So there is a power to extract and document the relevant documents like books, records, all those. So as I told you, these are the offences which will be having penalty that is imposed. So they are not fail, that is completing the return, or they are not giving the required particulars, or they are failing to complete or forward the contributors record. So they have to give the details about the contributors, or sometimes fraudulently they are furnishing some information, or they are failing or refusing to make any other form. As we know, we have already seen form 9, form 10. So what are the forms which will be used? If they are not giving the forms in time, it is also enough. So these are the offences which are being taken in order for your better understanding under this particular act. So in order to avoid any payment made under the act, that is what I told you, that is with the knowledge, or they are having some false statements, or they are not making any contributions, or not making any administrative charges, or they are deducting an attempt to deduct from the wages or remuneration. Like they can go for partly, or they are doing it fully, that is whole or part by employees' contribution. They are not submitting the return in proper time or the necessary document statement. Even if they are submitting the return, they are giving false return or some other false or fake statements. Suppose the inspector is there, he is working, means they are not allowing the inspector to discharge his duty. That is important. They are not allowing the inspector to discharge his duty. That is also there. So obstructing the inspector from discharging his duty, even that is an offence under this particular act. So this is the instructions how they have to go for online claims for the purpose. So now, as we know, there is an outbreak of a pandemic COVID-19. Now everything can be done through online. So there is a login portal. This is how we have to go for. So this is how they have to go for filing online advance claim and login. This is a member interface or a unified portal. Everybody will have a number. So this is a website address. They can, after going there, they can go for services, claims, and all these forms are there. They have to enter their last four digits of their bank account and verify. Then they have to go for proceed for online claim. Then they can select the PF advance. This is form 31. This is given in the drop down window. And they have to select the purpose. So outbreak of pandemic, they can even select that from a drop down window and drop down menu also. They have to enter the amount, and they have to upload the scanned copy of the check and enter their address. So before applying, they have to keep everything in the PDF form. Then click on get Aadhaar OTP. So an Aadhaar OTP will be generated, that will be sent to his mobile. So there is a password, that is one OTP, that is a one-time password will be sent, and they have to get their password after getting. So before this, they have to validate their Aadhaar. Only if they validate the Aadhaar, they will be getting this OTP, and that Aadhaar will be linked to their registered mobile number. This is very important, otherwise they will not get OTP. Then here there are more errors will be occurring. So before going for this, they have to validate their Aadhaar with their mobile number. Then that should be linked to their passbook also, that is bank account also. Then they will be submitting the claim. So here, what are the prerequisites to go for online things? They have to have a unified portal, that is number, yesterday I told you, that should be activated. Then as I told you, they have a verified Aadhaar should be linked with UAN, then bank account with IFSC code that should be seated with UAN. Then the mobile number should also be seated with UAN. This is the prerequisites. Only then they can go for. And as I told you, the amount is 75% of the PF balance can be taken. That is with respect to employer and employee share, or 3 months of basic salary and dearness allowance. So whichever is the least can be made as a claim. This is the procedure for making the claim under the